Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to It's Rainmaking Time. This is Kim Greenhouse. We have invited Dr. Timothy Ball, a climatologist, one of the authors of a new book on climate called Slaying the Sky Dragon, Death of the Greenhouse Gas Theory. He's co-authored this book with Claes Johnson, Martin Hertzberg, Joseph Olson, Oliver Manuel, Alan Siddons, Charles Anderson, Hans Schroeder, and John O'Sullivan. Dr. Ball is also a writer for Canada Free Press who has articles every week in there that you can take a look at canadafreepress.com. He was participating in the first climate segment that we did to lay out where the interest in climate has come from, to talk about both generalization and specialization in science. He laid out and clarified a lot of issues for us, and he's been on several times. We've talked about the oceans. He was on with Gavin Menzies. We had him on to talk about peer review, what people don't understand of how academia works with peer review and publishing. And today, we're bringing him on to talk about Slaying the Sky Dragon because I have several questions regarding permafrost, regarding greenhouse gases, and this whole carbon thing. And I think it's also a very pertinent time because Sir Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin, has just launched this week the Carbon War Room at carbonwarroom.com. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Dr. Tim Ball to It's Rainmaking Time. Good morning.
Good morning, Kim, and thanks for the opportunity.
It's a pleasure. I learn a lot from you every time we come together. Thank you so much for that.
That's my objective, is to help people understand. And, of course, the more we understand, the less we can be taken advantage of. That's the knowledge of education.
Can we start with this thing about greenhouse gases relative to climate? Could you lay it out for us? Because a lot of us don't understand it, and we don't know what it has to do with climate, and we don't know how to respond when people say the greenhouse gases are causing this or that, and therefore climate change is a problem. Explain it to us.
The concept of the greenhouse gases, the analogy, was created originally to help students understand why the Earth is warmer than it should be if you just took the amount of energy coming in from the sun and the amount of heat going out from the Earth. And without these so-called greenhouse gases, the Earth's temperature, which is on average about 15 degrees Celsius, without those greenhouse gases, the global temperature would be about minus 18 degrees Celsius. So they keep the planet much warmer than it would be if it was just a straight energy in and energy out pattern. And it's a similar idea, as I say, the analogy with the greenhouse has become so much of our lexicon that we can't get rid of it, although we should, because it's a terrible analogy. The greenhouse really doesn't work the same way as the Earth's atmosphere, but nonetheless, we have to deal with the realities that are out there and help people understand. Now, the idea is that energy from the sun enters the greenhouse, passes through the glass, heats the surfaces inside, and in doing that, it changes from shortwave energy, which is sunlight, into long-wave energy, which is what's called sensible heat, or heat you can feel. Now, to give you an idea, Kim, people say, I could feel the heat of the sun. You're not. What you're feeling is the sun's energy is causing the molecules in your skin to increase their rate of movement, called Brownian movement, and you feel that then as heat. You achieve the same thing if you simply rub the skin. You're causing the frictional effect then of Brownian movement and therefore more heat. Now, in the greenhouse, the shortwave energy passes through the glass and heats the inside, and then the long-wave energy from the area that's heated cannot pass through the glass of the greenhouse. So in other words, the glass is acting like a one-way valve, letting shortwave in and blocking a long wave from going out. Now, the argument is that the atmosphere works the same way, except that you now substitute the greenhouse gases for the glass in the greenhouse. And so the sunlight comes in, passes through the atmosphere, heats the ground, and this is something that most people don't understand. They've got somewhat of a sense of it, but the atmosphere is not heated by the sun. There is a little bit of heating of the atmosphere by the sun, partly because of the dust particles in the atmosphere that absorb the heat, but the atmosphere is mostly heated by the ground. And
that's of course, interesting. Fascinating. I never knew that.
No, I know. It's one of those simple things. And by the way, just to put your mind around that, Kim. If you get in an airplane, even at the tropics, and you go up to 70, 80,000 feet, you're down to minus 40, minus 50 Celsius right away. And so you say, well, hold on a minute, I'm going towards the sun. Shouldn't it be getting warmer? No, what you're doing is you're moving away from the source of the heat for the atmosphere, which is the surface. And of course, that's why the lowest temperatures on average occur after sunrise, because the heat from the ground is escaping, and then it takes time for the sun to come up, heat the ground, and start to raise the temperature again. So the air temperature continues to drop for a brief time after sunrise. So everywhere you look, you can see this phenomenon of the ground actually heating the atmosphere.
Fascinating. I don't think most of us know that.
No, I know. And as I said, one of the things that I learned teaching a science credit to art students is that it's the obvious that most people don't see. And the people that do see those things think, oh, that's so obvious, I don't need to explain that. So we end up with this complete disconnect in terms of understanding and communication. But anyway, the heat now from the ground goes back towards space, and it's not a good word for it, but basically it's trapped by these greenhouse gases. And again, not a good analogy, but it's almost like heat from your body is held into your bed by the blanket.
Okay.
And of course, you get warmer under the blanket than the outside air. Now, with your body, of course, you've got to keep eating to create more energy to keep the heat going, because if you didn't, eventually you would lose all your body heat, no matter if you got a blanket on it. The greenhouse gases are then very important in maintaining the temperature of the Earth at this 15 degrees Celsius, which of course is what maintains life. Now, this is where we get into the problem, because the greenhouse gases, the primary ones, are water vapor, carbon dioxide, and methane. And we're going to talk in a few minutes about permafrost, and of course it's the release of methane with the melting of that that's become an issue. But nonetheless, the three major gases then are water vapor, carbon dioxide, and methane. Because of the political exploitation of climate change and the greenhouse effect, the focus has been all on CO2, and we've talked about that many times. We can talk about it some more. But the major greenhouse gas by far is water vapor. It's 95% of the greenhouse gases by volume, so that CO2 is less than 4% of the greenhouse gases. And of course, that's the reason why I keep asking people to understand that and then ask the question, well, why are they focusing on such a small part of this total greenhouse effect?
Why are they?
It's because Morris Strong made the comment about 30 years ago, and it was quoted in a book by Elaine Dewar when she was interviewing him. And he made the comment that the problem for the planet are the industrialized nations, and isn't it our responsibility to get rid of them? And this was partly because they argued that with industrialization and development, the world's become overpopulated. And of course, that's the Club of Rome theme, that the world's overpopulated, we've got to get rid of the people. And industrialization is the engine of that expansion. Now, in fact, what's ironic about it is that actually as economies develop and industry increases, the population starts to decline.
How do we know that? Say that last thing again.
It's called the demographic transition. So if
Explain
anybody
it.
wants to look it up, look at demographic transition. And it's the transition in population growth that occurs with increasing economy, increased reliability of food supply, more secure water supply, and so on. And what happens is that life expectancy increases, the death rate goes down, and then there's an increase in population for a while, but then the birth rate goes down, and the population initially stabilizes and then starts to decline. And you can see this in all the developed countries of the world. The normal rate of replacement, so if you're going to have 2.4 children per family, you would maintain your population. If you fall below that, the population starts to decline. And in all of the developed countries of the world, the rate is down to 1.5, 1.6. Quebec in Canada, for example, is 1.3.